Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Cal State Fullerton Department of Kinesiology's Road to DPT video series, where we answer many of your frequently asked questions about the process of getting into a DPT program. This video will talk about preparation, including am I a good candidate, and how to look for different schools and programs that are the best fit for you. Let's get started. First, we'll start off by talking about what does it take to become a good candidate for PT school. DPT programs are known for being one of the most stringent with their application processes and admissions, with the average acceptance rate for PT school being approximately 21% and top programs accepting less than 5 to 10% of applicants. In the 2018-19 cycle, the mean overall undergraduate GPA of accepted applicants was 3.57, with an average prerequisite GPA of 3.41. Now, what this means is that your overall GPA includes all of the classes that you've taken during undergrad and takes all of your transcripts into account, whereas the prerequisite GPA is the average of the classes that you have taken specifically in preparation for DPT programs. Now, this can tend to be a little bit more difficult as these include your science series, your biology, chemistry, physics, etc., with less cushion from other classes. So these GPAs are very, very important. And academics play a huge role in the admissions process. Many programs require a minimum GPA of 3.0 in order to apply. Now, that's not to say that there aren't programs out there in which you can apply with, per se, a 2.8 or a 2.96, etc., and have great essay and have great observation hours and letters, etc., and still have a good chance. However, that is to say that academics are very, very important, and many of these schools require a baseline of 3.0 in order to even apply. Mean GRE scores, the GRE being one of the standardized exams that is required for application to PT schools, which we will talk about in a later video. The mean scores of accepted applicants ranged in the 50 to 60th percentile, meaning above average in all three sections. Again, we will talk a little bit about the GRE in a later video, but all of that is just to say that exams and academics are one of the most important parts of the application. And if this isn't you, if you don't believe that you can fall into this, then that is perfectly okay. Like we said in the last video, there are plenty of other options, and you don't need to feel pressured that this is what you have to do. However, with that being said, if this is something that you are driven for, you should know that this is a very, very stringent process and very selective in the admissions process. Now, when it comes to getting started and looking for programs that you might be interested in, the process can become very overwhelming. There's so many to choose from. For the 2018-19 application cycle, there were 229 programs in the PTCAS database, with that number growing every year. Which ones do you choose and where do you start? A good starting place would be the PTCAS and the APT website directories of accredited physical therapy programs, which include program information, requirements, prerequisites, deadlines, etc., and everything you might need to know about the programs of your choice. Now, in the top right corner, you'll see the screenshot of the PTCAS/APTA website, which includes a search engine for specific schools that you might like or places that you might enjoy living, etc., etc. The bottom is the CAPTE accredited PT and physical therapy assistant programs directory, for instance, if you're interested in the vocational assistant program. Something that's important to think about for choosing a school or understanding where to start. Some good guiding questions might be, where would you like to live for 2 to 3 years? This becomes very important. PT school is a very big part of your life. It can be a very wonderful time, but also a very stressful time. And you want to make sure that you are in an environment where you can thrive and that you actually enjoy living for 2 to 3 years. Many people end up very much liking wherever they go to school, and sometimes they stay there. That's not necessarily a requirement, but I know for me personally, I am not good at handling winter as a SoCal kid, and therefore I don't want to go to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota or University of Delaware out in the Northeast because I know that I can't handle the winters there. So that was something that was very important for me in choosing a school. Because again, you're going to be living here for a very important 2 to 3 years of your life, and you want to make sure that it is somewhere that you are going to thrive. Another thing to think about is what is important to you in a school? What values do you hold for your education? Ask yourself, why did you choose Cal State Fullerton in the first place? And what might you be looking for in another program? For me, I know that diversity, equity, and inclusion were things that I value deeply. And so therefore, I looked for a program where these values were reflected back to me. And I know that this is a program where I can be fulfilled and empowered in that decision. Now, for the next slide, I went ahead and used the PTCAS APTA website up top so that I can show you some of the features. And we'll go ahead and get started on that on the next slide. So for this slide, I'm going to be using the University of Colorado DPT page because this is where I will be going, so I'm a little bit biased. But this is mainly just to show you some of the features of the web page. Let's say you go to the PTCAS APTA directory, you search different schools, and certain programs catch your eye. When you click on the link, the top left corner is what you will see. This is the top of the page. It has different tabs including program information, admissions requirements, course prerequisites, deadlines, contacts, etc. And you can see all of this information on the page. In the top right corner, you'll see there is general information. Does the program guarantee freshman admission pathway? No. Dual degree programs, admissions interviews, deposits, all of the information for general program. Now, when you go to course prerequisites or program prerequisites in general, it'll tell you that you require a bachelor's degree for this program and all of the prerequisites that come with that, including anatomy, chemistry, English, math, physics, physiology, etc. And this is where you can find all of the specific classes that your designated program requires. Now, when you click the link on the side, the little arrow on the left-hand side, it will tell you all of the classes that can be accepted for that specific requirement and what will work so that you can plan accordingly. In the bottom right, you can see the admissions requirements in general, which includes supplemental requirements, graduate record exam, the GRE, any sort of minimum or average GRE scores, reference requirements for letters of recommendation, observation hours, GPA requirements, and anything you might need to know if you're an international student. So this homepage from the PTCAS is very comprehensive in finding you almost anything that you might need to know about a program. Now, if you're searching the PTCAS directory and you find a couple of schools that catch your eye or you feel like you might be a good fit, the next step would be to go to their individual websites and look for some key facts or statistics that might help you in your decision. Some of these important figures include the acceptance rate, how selective is their process, what are their demographics, how many males to females, what is the nationality and ethnicity breakdown, how much do they include various groups of students, of citizens, what is their graduation rate? What is their licensure pass rate? Meaning after they've graduated, how many people from that class actually pass the licensing exams? What is the tuition and financial aid options? Et cetera, because these are some of the really big factors that might help you in your decision. A few other things to think about along the lines of financials is that state schools might have an in-state versus out-of-state tuition, just like Cal State Fullerton does or other public institutions, whereas some programs may be private and they may have a flat rate. It's understandable that physical therapy school is an investment, so it's going to cost a large sum of money regardless, but you also want to figure out which is going to be the best option for you so that you're not necessarily coming out of school with a mound of debt that was unnecessary. In terms of looking at a timeline for this process and this journey into physical therapy school, there are two main options that we encourage students to use. Both of these options may take upwards of 8 to 10 years, so once again, this is an investment of your time, and we want to make sure that you are doing it as efficiently as possible for your situation. The first option is the one that we tend to encourage for juniors, seniors, and students that are closer to the end of their bachelor's degree, in which you first complete your bachelor's degree, you get your 4-year degree done here at Cal State Fullerton, that's why you're here, finish your kinesiology requirements, and after you have that finished, take some gap time. Take a year or two to get your prerequisite classes done, do your GRE exam, get your observation hours in, complete your application, etc. And this may take anywhere from 1 to 3 years depending on the availability of classes, your own life schedule, etc., etc. Then you add a DPT program on top of that, which is 2 to 3 years, and you get a total of 8 to 10 year plan. The second option is what we tend to encourage for freshmen, sophomores, and those people who are generally planning their course through their bachelor's degree. This option includes doing your prerequisite classes during your bachelor's and trying to build in some of your requirements into your degree requirements. So for instance, If you know that the programs you want to apply to include a biology series and a chemistry series as prerequisite classes, you may take the first semester of biology bio 151. You may take chemistry 120A as your B1 and B2 general ed requirements, with one of those labs as your B3. And that way you only have the second half of the series, or the second semesters, the B sections of those, to be able to finish your requirements and, for lack of a better term, kill two birds with one stone. This may take some extra time to graduate, so it may include possible summers, winters, or some extra time during the semesters of school, and may take 5 or 6 years to graduate. But you finish all of these requirements in a nutshell of 5 to 6 years. Then you add your DPT on top of that for another 2 to 3 years, for again a total of 8 to 10 years. Now that concludes our second video on preparation for DPT schools. Stick around for video 3, in which we will start talking about the prerequisites.